AMA United States Motocross Nationals, brought to you by Suzuki. Your Suzuki dealer has the ride you've been waiting for and the financing to get it.
Hello, I'm Larry Myers. I'm watching video from the 1991 AMA National Championship Motocross Series, and it is exciting. Now, today we're going to bring you action from Binghampton, New York. We'll have coverage from the 500 and 125cc national title chases. Now, before we get to that, though, let's bring you up to date. We'll take a look at what happened last week from Washougal, Washington.
For the 125 class, it was round 9 of 13. For the 500cc class, it was round 2 of 6. For both classes, it was a perfect day for motocross. A huge crowd had gathered at the famed Washougal facility to watch the action. And when the gate dropped for the opening moto in the 125 class, that action was underway. Watch this pileup coming up just after corner number 1. Can't really tell what triggered that crash. You can't tell, however, that a good number of riders were through in moto number 1 before they barely got underway. Not affected by the crash, last year's winner in the 125 class, Guy Cooper, he's the defending champ, rider number 1. Had a little problem, though. Larry Ward from nearby Snohomish, Washington, with the cheers of the crowd ringing in his ears, blasted by Guy Cooper to take over that number 1 spot. No Suzuki team tactics here. Not only did Ward take over the lead, Ward held on to take the win in the opening moto. Cooper gave chase. Behind Cooper, as they head for the finish line, it would be Steve Lamson finishing 3rd, Brian Swink in 4th. Eric Keyhole would round out the top 5. This is the hero, though. Nearby Snohomish, Washington, the bells had to be ringing for this young man. Larry Ward takes his first moto win of the season in the 125 class. Second moto, chalk it up to Brian Swink, rider number 42 out of Fenton, Michigan. The pro circuit peak antifreeze Honda rider took the early lead, never looked back. Rider number 6, Mike LaRocco, just dropped back to the number 5 position, was the only rider to challenge Swink in moto number 2. LaRocco was involved in that opening lap fracas in moto number 1, replaced a clutch lever, finished in the number 36 position. He got second here in the second moto. All Brian Swink, he showed him the short way around the track. Overall honors in the 125 class went to Larry Ward, who finished 3rd in the second moto, followed by Swink, Cooper, Lamson, and McGrath. Mike Kidrowski, the series points leader, finished in the number 6 position with moto finishes of 5th and 6th. In the 500cc class, it was the elder statesman of motocross, Jeff Ward, the defending champ in this class, aboard his Kawasaki that took the lead in the opening laps of moto number 1. Ward, riding what looked to be a flawless race, was chased by Jean-Michel Bayle and Bayle's teammate Jeff Stanton. Bayle, the series points leader in the 500cc class. Closing stages of the moto, Jean-Michel Bayle has gotten by Jeff Ward. Jeff Stanton is still running in the number 3 position. He, too, though, before the moto is thrown, before the moto is ended, will make the pass. There it is. He goes around to the outside. Now he'll try to take them both in one swoop. He does it. He takes the lead for about 15 feet. Jean-Michel Bayle simply squared it off, shot back to the inside of Jeff Stanton to regain that number 1 spot. At the finish line, it was Bayle and a laugher. There was no one really close. Jeff Stanton held on to finish in the number 2 position. Jeff Ward finished 3rd. Moto number 2, and again it was Jeff Ward out front aboard his Kawasaki. The defending champ looked to be just about unbeatable this day at Washougal. He would not make a mistake this time. Jeff Stanton giving chase in 2nd in the second moto. That's Jean-Michel Bayle, rider number 8, back in the number 3 position. Here comes Ward. It's the last lap. He has just a few whoop-de-doos and a couple of corners to go, and he'll garner his first outdoor national championship win of the year in this 500 class. Checkered flag coming up. Give the nod to Jeff Ward. The veteran puts another one in a hat for all of us old guys watching. And that's the way it went at Washougal, Washington. Coming up, National Championship Motocross action is sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association from Binghampton, New York. In the 125cc National Championship class, it's going to be round 10 of 13. Only 3 more to go in that one after today. Round 3 of 6 in the 500 Championship Series. We'll be back with all of that action right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back. Coming up, National Championship Motocross, sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association, being brought to you in part by Suzuki and produced by Power Sports Video Productions. Today's action includes a pair of motos, championship motos in the 125cc class, as well as a pair of motos in the 500cc National Championship class. The action coming to you from Broome-Tioga Sports Center in Binghampton, New York. The number 1 on the side of that motorcycle belongs to defending 125cc national champion Guy Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma. When Cooper won the title just 1 year ago in Stillwater, they named a day after Cooper. The entire town turned out for that festivity, and as if that weren't enough, Guy Cooper had a street named after him in Stillwater. I'm not sure that any rider has ever been accorded that honor before. Pre-race activities in Binghampton, New York included an autograph session. That was Damon Bradshaw along with Jeff Stanton, Jeff Ward, and way down in the end was Guy Cooper. Now, earlier we had a chance to talk to Cooper about the 250cc riders that have jumped into the 125 class.
Make a lot of difference with the former 250 riders coming down into the 125. Does that mix it up a little bit?
Well, there's not as many that dropped down as there was last year. There's just Mike and Larry Ward that's dropped down, and both of them are riding pretty fast, and hopefully I can beat them and they can beat Mike, so it'll help me out with some points, but it's just the luck of the draw here.
The Mike referred to by Guy Cooper as Mike Kidrowski. He's the leader in this class who has just returned from Europe and Motocross des Nations.
Coming back from Motocross des Nations, another win, 11 in a row.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. You know, we had a rough time over there. It was close. You know, we all rode hard as we could. It was a rough track, rutted and everything, and it's kind of good to get back and start riding the Nationals again. And, you know, here at Broome, it's always rutted and, you know, kind of muddy in places and stuff, so it's kind of the same.
What's the experience of Motocross des Nations like?
I think it's kind of the race that has the most pressure on you, you know, and especially this year was, you know, we wanted to win 11 times, one more than anybody else, so there was kind of a lot of pressure and stuff, and, you know, it's just, you go there and ride as hard as you can, you know, for the full 30 minutes and don't give up for nothing. You know, there was a couple times I had guys right behind me and just pushing me, but I'm not going to let them go by at all, so it's a lot of pressure.
Motocross des Nations, for those of you that may not be aware, is team motocross. Each year, every country sends, every country that wants to participate, that is, sends a 125, a 250, and a 500cc rider to race against all of the other entries from the other countries. The team that scores best in a pair of motos each, that's two motos for each of the 3 riders, is declared the overall winner. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. In the meantime, this 125cc class about set to get underway. There's Guy Cooper. We had a shot a second ago of Mike Kidrowski. Cooper number 1. Kidrowski was number 4. Rider number 29 is Steve Lampson, lined up next to Cooper. 42 on down the line is Brian Swink, and there's Kidrowski right on the end. Cooper tending to go up toward the middle. Let's see who comes out best as the gate is dropped and the riders head toward corner number 1. And it looks like, and it is, from the middle of the pack, it was Guy Cooper, and from the extreme outside, it was Mike Kidrowski. So those 2 riders splitting the field as they head through the track on this first lap, the opening lap in the 125cc National Championship class. Running in a number 3 position was rider number 6, Mike LaRocco. Behind that field of riders, they start to sort themselves out. 40 of the toughest and the fastest 125cc riders in the world doing business here in Binghampton, New York at Broome-Tioga Race Center. Guy Cooper, the leader. Mike Kidrowski running second, and challenging on the outside was rider number 6 out of LaPorte, Indiana. That was Mike LaRocco. Now here comes Jeremy McGrath, rider number 125. McGrath pulling in, putting a wheel to the inside of LaRocco. McGrath holding down that number 4 position. LaRocco reached down, grabbed a handful of throttle, threw some roost, or threw some dirt, I should say, onto McGrath and said, bye-bye, son. You got to go to school just a little bit longer if you want to get around me today. So McGrath holds tight in that number 4 position. Riders disappearing uphill and out of sight and coming down the hill the other side, and it's Mike Kidrowski getting a drive around the edge of Cooper, and here comes LaRocco. So LaRocco takes over the number 2 position. Cooper dropping back into the number 3 slot. It's still number 125, Jeremy McGrath in 4th. Barry Karsten, rider number 34, is in the number 5 position. 6th place belongs to number 23, Denny Stevenson. The surprise of the day is Cooper dropping back so quickly, and apparently with ease, the riders in front of him made the pass. Mike Kidrowski and Mike LaRocco just grabbing a handful of throttle and burying Guy Cooper behind him. That is not like Guy Cooper. Normally, he is a much tougher rider to pass, and this late in the season with a championship at stake, you would think Cooper would try to hold on to every position, every point that he possibly can on a racetrack on any given day. Mike Kidrowski, Canyon Country, California. He was the 125cc national champ in 1989. Lost that title to Guy Cooper, who is currently running 2nd in the championship point standings and 3rd in this race. The series points leader, of course, is Mike Kidrowski, rider number 4, who is currently being challenged by Mike LaRocco. LaRocco, of course, is not a factor in this 125cc National Championship chase. Earlier in the season, LaRocco was part of the 250cc title chase. Now, that race series, some 7 races long, has long ago been decided. Jean-Michel Bayle, the French rider, captured that title. But Suzuki, the team that Mike LaRocco rides for, does not have a 500cc machine. So while Jean-Michel Bayle, while Jeff Stanton, Damon Bradshaw from Yamaha, and Jeff Ward from Team Kawasaki, while those riders went on to campaign the 500cc national title, the Suzuki riders had to either set idle for half the year or they needed to join this 125cc championship chase. That is exactly what Mike LaRocco has done. Now, in theory, Mike LaRocco should be helping his teammate Guy Cooper so that Cooper could garner as many national championship points as he possibly could. But he has gone by Guy Cooper and has taken over that number 2 position and is challenging Mike Kiedrowski for the number 1 spot. You would expect maybe that, well, Mike LaRocco might drop back off the pace, let Cooper go, and maybe LaRocco could hold those riders that are chasing the leaders, hold them at bay while Cooper put the maximum points in the hat, and he tried to catch Mike Kiedrowski. There goes LaRocco, and LaRocco blast by Mike Kiedrowski to take over the number 1 position. Mike LaRocco on that vicious downhill set of jumps and whoops just kept the throttle dialed. He went to the outside, and I don't think Kiedrowski even knew he was coming. That's a rough section of the racetrack, and it's not a section where you would normally think that a pass might be attempted, let alone made. Mike LaRocco, though, pulled one out of his helmet, kept it dialed in, and has taken over the number 1 position. We were talking about whether or not Mike LaRocco should be giving ground to Guy Cooper, who is involved in that championship chase. And I think right now that the orders from Team Suzuki have been, look, it's every man for himself. If the points gap between Cooper and Kiedrowski were, let's say if it were closer, because it is some 43 points, then maybe the team orders would be shifted slightly, and maybe Mike LaRocco, maybe Denny Stevenson would be assisting as much as they possibly could Guy Cooper to garner that championship for Team Suzuki. But that's not the case, and Mike LaRocco is doing it in spades in Moto number 1 here at Binghamton, New York. LaRocco winning his initial 125cc outing in Minnesota just a few weeks ago. Looks like he would like to turn a double here in Binghamton, New York. We'll be back with the conclusion of this moto right after this. Welcome back to Prime Network. If you've just joined us, this is National Championship Motocross, sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association. We're in Binghamton, New York at Broome-Tioga Sports Center. This is the opening moto of 2 motos. There will be 2 in each class today, 125 and 500. This is the opener in the 125cc class. Mike LaRocco, rider number 6, out of LaPorte, Indiana. Team Suzuki rider is holding down the number 1 position. Right behind him is the 1989 125cc national champ and the series points leader in 1991, Mike Kiedrowski. At the outset of this moto, Kiedrowski, rider number 4, was the leader. He had taken the lead away from Guy Cooper, who had the hole shot, and it looked like maybe it was going to be a Mike Kiedrowski day. Kiedrowski had already captured 3 overall wins this season, looking for number 3 here at Broome-Tioga. Mike LaRocco, however, had other plans in store for the Kawasaki rider. On a rough downhill section of track, Mike LaRocco just kind of left the throttle on. He dialed it in and reeled in Mike Kiedrowski to take over that number 1 spot. We mentioned there are a pair of motos in each class, the 125 and 500 here today. The moto is a terminology used in motocross to designate a race for those of you that have just joined us and those of you that are unfamiliar with the sport of motocross. So instead of calling it a pair of races, we call it a pair of motos. Each moto is scored independent of the other in that the winner of each one will get 25 points, second place gets 22 points, third place 20, fourth 18, fifth place gets 16, and on down the line, all the way down to 20th place, and that rider that finishes 20th gets 1 point. The points are totaled together, and that determines the overall winner for the day. But in the championship chase, whatever points you earn in each moto is applied to your championship total. And right now, Mike Kiedrowski, some 43 points ahead of Guy Cooper, who is running way back in the number 3 position. He's not been a factor since being passed in the early going here in Moto number 1. Mike Kiedrowski, in any event, is the national championship points leader, looking to regain that title that he lost to Guy Cooper in 1989. This one is winding down. Mike LaRocco extremely strong aboard that 125. It makes you wonder if LaRocco maybe should not have been riding that 125 class all year long. Mike LaRocco just whips it sideways as he takes the checkered flag, points over at the crowd. Mike Kidrowski finishing in the number 2 position. LaRocco taking the goggles off and throws them to the fans, says, there's a souvenir to take home for you. LaRocco out of LaPorte, Indiana, one of the nicest young men, as is Mike Kidrowski, that you're going to find anywhere on the tour. This moto is over. We have 500cc action coming up. Now, earlier we talked to Mike Kidrowski about his recent visit to Europe as a member of the Motocross des Nations team. Our correspondent, Carl Holman, is in the pits with Jeff Stanton. He was the hero of Motocross des Nations.
Motocross des Nations, congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Very good. What's the experience like at Motocross des Nations?
Well, it was now my 3rd time, so it's definitely a good experience. You know, it's always good to go over there and, you know, uphold your country, the United States, and it's a great honor to do that. As a team, we did it once again.
It's kind of, you feel like it's the Olympics of motocross?
Pretty much is basically what it is. You know, it's all the other countries against us. That made 11 in a row for us, and like I said, I've been a part of it now 3 years in a row.
Are they getting hungrier? Are they getting better every year that you go back?
Yeah, they're getting better and better each year. You know, there's not a lot of fast riders, but there's a handful that's always right there, pounding on the door each year.
And you're back home here. I'm sure you're glad to be back home in the States. Tell us a little bit about this track, how you feel about it.
Well, I've won the last 2 years in a row here, so apparently I must like it pretty well. No, it's good to be back here. I'm ready to get back here and get this 500 title. I've had some bad luck through the other ones, and I feel that I'm ready. I just need to dig down a little deeper and start winning these motos.
One moto at a time.
One moto at a time.
Jeff Stanton was America's entry in the 500cc class. Mike Kidrowski, who we talked to earlier, rode the 125s, and that young man, rider number 11 on the Yamaha, was a member of the U.S. team aboard the 250s.
It's a lot different. You know, we raced against a bunch of fast guys that are really familiar with the sand and familiar with that racetrack, and you know, it was to their advantage, and we were able to go over and beat them again. You know, we put together the best scores we could, and you know, came home with the championship again. So it's it's back here in the United States again, back to the Nationals, and here at Broome-Tioga.
You're glad to be back home, obviously. How do you like it here at Broome-Tioga?
I like it. You know, I've always done well here, and you know, hopefully I can put together some good finishes there. I need to do that, you know, to kind of boost the confidence back up, and you know, and also for Yamaha and the 500 and everything. So I'm looking forward to it today.
And we're looking forward to all of the great motocross action coming your way from Broome-Tioga Sports Center, Binghampton, New York. We'll congratulate and thank all of the American riders and their mechanics, all of the support personnel that went to Europe to compete in Motocross des Nations, bringing that title home, Team Motocross title home, one more time to the United States. That makes the 11th consecutive year an unprecedented feat. How long can they keep it up? My guess is as long as they want to go there and ride. We'll be back with more motocross right after this. Welcome back to National Championship Motocross, coming your way from Broome-Tioga Sports Center, Binghamton, New York. Rider number 2, that's Jeff Stanton. Beside him, number 8, Jean-Michel Bale. There's Ron Lachine, number 100, and our defending champion, and in this 500cc class, and winner at Washougal just a couple of weeks ago, Jeff Ward, rider number 1. There's the rider, though, that everyone is gunning for already this season, Jean-Michel Bale. 2 times a world champ, has captured the Supercross title, the 250 outdoor title, and is now leading the 500cc national championship title chase. Can he turn the trick and win all 3? No one in the history of U.S. motocross has ever done that. Hard, though, to bet against Jean-Michel Bale. He's been Mr. Motocross this year. The gate is down. From the inside, Jeff Ward looked like a rocket ship. That gate dropped, and Ward was gone. Look at the start this man has. Ward, rider number 1, the defending 500cc champ, comes out of the gate first. He was first through the corner, and he leads the field on lap number 1. Holding down the number 2 position, rider number 11, the rider we were just talking to in the pits about Motocross des Nations, Damon Bradshaw for Team Yamaha. Beside Bradshaw, rider number 15 is a teammate, that's Doug Dubach, and here comes to the outside, rider number 8, Jean-Michel Bale. And Bale makes the pass. He'll settle in behind Bradshaw in the number 3 spot. Then comes Dubach, then around the outside. And now he'll take over 4th place was Jeff Stanton. Stanton, rider number 2, railed to the outside of Doug Dubach, and he has moved to the number 4 position. Dubach holds down the number 5 position. Then comes Ron Lachine, rider number 100. He's in 6th. Jeff Ward, the leader in this one, has won a pair of 500cc national championships. He turned that trick in 1989 and again in 1990. But in the 500 class, he has never been able to cop a win here at Binghampton. Now, he did win at Binghampton in the 125 class. He turned that trick in 1984. Of course, in that particular year, Jeff Ward won just about everything there was to win in the 125 class, including the national championship. Ward out front, followed by Jean-Michel Bayle. There's Jeff Stanton. Then comes Doug Dubach. Ron Lechien, rider number 100. Number 24 is Gene Newmack. Then it was rider number 14 aboard the KTM. That was Mike Fisher. The rider they're shooting for, though, number 1, he's aboard the Kawasaki, and out front, Jeff Ward, the defending 500cc national champion, looking for his first win ever at Binghampton aboard a 500cc machine. Would not count him out earlier this season. If we go back to Oklahoma in the Supercross Series, Ward was the winner of that event, and it was the 8th consecutive year that the veteran had won at least one Supercross event. In motocross competition, it was just a few weeks ago at Washougal, Washington. In fact, the round prior to this one in this 500cc national championship class, that Jeff Ward was the overall winner at Washougal. So Ward still has one it takes. 30 years of age, and he's out here giving the kids fits. He is one of the finest motocross riders in the world today. Certainly when it comes to being measured on the scale as to who is the most physically fit and who has the right temperament to get the job done, Jeff Ward has to rank right up at the top. And right now, Ward is involved in one of those classic confrontations. He's the veteran. Right behind him, rider number 11, Damon Bradshaw, the charging young lion. Bradshaw, out of Charlotte, North Carolina, has not won an event in this 500cc National Championship Series to date. He would love to do the trick, as would all of the riders in the field here at Broome-Tioga. Jeff Ward out front aboard the Kawasaki. Bradshaw running in the number 2 position on the Yamaha. An air-cooled Yamaha, we might point out. Now, most of the bikes out here today are water-cooled. They're the latest in motocross technology. The 500cc motorcycle that Bradshaw is riding, however, has been around for a few years. They've made some modifications to it, updated the suspension, probably changed the frame geometry just a little bit. Who knows what magical changes they have made underneath the seat of Bradshaw's motorcycle. But one thing they have not changed is that power plant. It's still basically the same power plant it was a couple of years ago when Brock Glover was riding it to so many successful championships and victories for Team Yamaha. Jean-Michel Bayle holding down 3rd, and that was Jeff Stanton in 4th. Now, Stanton is not only chasing Jean-Michel Bayle here in moto number 1 of the 500cc class, but he is chasing the Frenchman for the 500cc National Championship title. Now, there is Bayle, and you can see Stanton is way off the pace. He's not riding as aggressively as Jeff Stanton normally does. You might think, well, he's been in Europe. He was over there campaigning motocross to nations, and he has a right to be sluggish and a right to be off the pace. On the other hand, Damon Bradshaw was there too, and Bradshaw is giving Jeff Ward fits out front. On at least 3 occasions today, Damon Bradshaw has moved to Jeff Ward's rear wheel, then stuck his front wheel into Ward's line of vision to let him know he was there. He's trying to badger. He would like to force some kind of a mistake on the part of Jeff Ward. Well, Ward will not make those mistakes easily. You can count on that. He is the only rider in the history of American motocross to have won national championships, in all designated AMA Championship Motocross Series. That's 125, 250, 500, and Supercross. And with credentials like that, well, you don't spook easily. Ward, 30 years of age. Damon Bradshaw, just 18, giving chase. Now, earlier I mentioned that Jean-Michel Bayle was the series leader. Let's take a look at some of the riders behind him. Bayle has 95 points. Jeff Stanton, 86, just 9 points back. Jeff Ward with 83 is in the number 3 position. 4th place is the property of Damon Bradshaw with 76. Then comes Ron Lechien. He has 64 points. He's holding down that number 5 position. And ironically, Ron Lechien has finished 5th in all 4 motos that have been run to date in this 500cc class. Now Bradshaw again showing the wheel to Jeff Ward. He draws alongside the veteran, tries to get a wheel in to go to the inside. Is he going to get the job done? Yes. Damon Bradshaw takes over the number 1 position as this moto was winding down at Broome-Tioga. And that was Jean-Michel Bayle picking himself up. Evidently watching Bradshaw make that pass made the Frenchman, or got the Frenchman, I should say, excited. And he grabbed a handful of throttle or hit the brakes, either one, at the wrong time. In any event, Bayle down on the ground. I would tell you, though, that Bayle did not even lose. He was so far out in front, he did not even lose his hold on the number 3 position. So it's Damon Bradshaw out front, Jeff Ward Ward running second, Jean-Michel Bale third, Jeff Stanton still back in that number 4 slot. So as this, the opening moto of the 500cc class at Broome-Tioga, is winding down, Damon Bradshaw is poised to take his first moto win of the season in the 500 class. There are a few more whoops, a few more bumps, a few more jumps, a few more straightaways and corners, and Bradshaw will have this one wrapped up. He has to keep it upright. He has to avoid mistakes. Jeff Ward is right behind him and watching every move the youngster makes. Ward has not gone away at all. Jeff Ward riding as fast or faster than anyone on this racetrack. Now Bradshaw working his way through lapped riders, and oh, there's a break. Bradshaw went to the inside. That lapper saw him coming and moved over, let Bradshaw go to the inside. Then he promptly took the line away from Jeff Ward. So Ward was not able to take advantage of the momentum that he had going into that corner. Mark this one up in the books for Damon Bradshaw, first moto win of the season for the Team Yamaha rider out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And Bradshaw makes that U-turn, looks to his right. He sees Jeff Ward and just gave him a little bit of a nod and a flick of the hand, says, come on back. We'll do it all again in moto number 2. And we'll invite you to come back. More action coming your way. Stay with us.
Welcome back. I'm Larry Myers. You've been watching AMA National Championship Motocross, and there is still a lot more to come. Before we get to it, though, let's go inside motocross with retired champion Bob Hurricane Hanna.
Hello, I'm Bob Hurricane Hanna, and welcome to Inside Motocross. Today we've got a very special segment for you. We're going to talk to 5-time world champion Roger DeCoster and ask him how the sport of motocross has evolved and where he thinks it's headed. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of motocross, where it came from, where it's gone, the riders, the European riders, the American riders, and where it is today and where you think it's going.
Well, as far as the bike, if you had to say one thing that has changed a lot on the motocross bike since the mid-60s, early 70s till now, it's the reliability of the bike.
Sure.
If the mechanic doesn't make a mistake, very seldom will you see a motocross bike DNF, which is amazing if you compare to a lot of car racing and other forms of motor racing. And everybody knows suspension has gotten a lot better, the power band has gotten a lot better, and the brakes have gotten so much better. And that's in short for what the bike is concerned. As far as the riding, when we first came over, I came over here in '67, the first year with Howman and Robert and Bickers and those guys. The Americans at that time, they raced motorcycles a lot, but mainly it was like handhounds, what they call the Grand Prix that in America, which is different than Europe on the long track and a few laps. So there was a lot of racing, the TTs, the dirt track and all that, but nothing really on a restricted track like motocross today here. And so when we came over first, the level of racing, I think, in Europe was even higher by itself, I think, than it is today. So it was easy for us to come and beat the Americans in the beginning. Here for the first 5-6 years, it was pretty easy until you came along in the mid-70s, and then it got a lot tougher. And I think the thing that helped the American riders a lot was the beginning of Supercross in the mid-70s. Having to ride on very tight tracks with a lot more obstacles, a lot of jump, a lot of timing involved. I think that allowed the American riders to develop much quicker than the European riders. And Europe maybe rested a little bit on their laurels also. And by the end of the 70s, early 80s, the American riders were stronger than the Europeans.
Roger, what's the future hold for motocross? You think Supercross is the way it's going in the States?
Well, I like Supercross and all that, but I think we have to keep a balance between the two, between Supercross and outdoors, if you want to keep the sport healthy long term. If we put the industry put all our marbles in Supercross only, I think what's going to happen is going to become like a little traveling circus.
Very limited, right?
And there's not going to be a resupply of young riders and young talent and all that. And I think it may be good for 2 or 3 years, But I think in the long run it will go downhill.
We need the grassroots out,
Exactly.
young boys riding around, get to ride the local tracks, ride the bigger tracks, and come up to the nationals. Well, thanks a lot for being with us, Roger. It's a pleasure. I'm Bob Hanna, and we'll see you next time inside Motocross.
And we'll thank Bob Hanna, a legendary figure in the sport of motocross, for that inside look at motocross. Moto number 2 in the 125 class is on the line, about set to go. That action is coming your way very, very shortly. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Broome-Tioga Sports Center, Binghampton, New York. If you've just joined us, we have already completed a pair of motos, one in the 125 National Championship class and one in the 500cc National Championship class. Still to come, one each in both of those classes, and the 125s are on the line and set to go. Mike LaRocco, the winner of the opening moto, followed by Kidrowski, Cooper, Jeff Emig was 4th, and rounding out the top 5, Larry Ward. The gate is dropped and they are underway. There's Mike LaRocco, number 6. He picked a spot way off to the right. He's going to pay some kind of a price for that. He is well back in the pack as moto number 2 is underway. Jeff Emig scored the whole shot in that one, followed by Mike Kidrowski holding down that number 2 position. And would you believe, all the way up to 6th or 7th, it was Mike LaRocco. I thought he was mired well back in the pack. He must have done some kind of fancy throttle twisting to get that close to the front. Let's take a look at the front runners. It's Jeff Emig out front, rider number 18. There's Mike Kidrowski to the right. Jeremy McGrath is running 3rd. 4th place is the property of Larry Ward. Then 5th, Mike Brown. 6th place, Mike LaRocco. Talon Boland is 7th. Guy Cooper, 8th. Looked like Tyson Boland, rider number 311, was holding down that number 9 position. Then came Brian Swink. Buddy Antonez was in there, and a host of others. Is still in the early going in moto number 2 in this 125cc National Championship title chase at Broome-Tioga. Jeff Emig out of Grand Terrace, California, continues to hold down that number 1 spot, and he continues to be pursued, hounded, stalked by Mike Kidrowski, the 1989 125cc national champ. It's still in the early going. The field has not yet spread themselves out, so the front runners have got a clear track in front of them. They don't have to worry about dust. They don't have to worry about lap riders at this point. Larry Ward still holding 3rd, and look at this. Rider number 6, Mike LaRocco, has moved all the way to 4th to challenge Ward for that number 3 position. LaRocco giving Ward fits, and now Kidrowski giving fits to the rider in the number 1 slot, number 18, Jeff Emig. Emig has all he can do to keep Kidrowski behind him. He took a quick look over his shoulder. All he saw was number 4 number plate aboard that green Kawasaki and said, I've had enough of that. And he tried to twist the throttle a little bit harder to open up some ground between himself and Kidrowski. Did not get the job done, and Kidrowski makes the pass. Mike Kidrowski has taken over the number 1 position. He blasted to the inside of number 18, Jeff Emig. And now let's see what Kidrowski can do with a clear track in front of him. Now, Kidrowski knows, if he's watching his pit signals, that right behind him is at least close enough to attack and to pounce his first moto winner, Mike LaRocco. So what Kidrowski wants to do more than anything at this particular time is put as much distance between himself and the rest of the pack as he possibly can. Theory being, if he is faster than Jeff Emig, who is holding down 2nd, then he should be able to run away while Emig holds down the riders behind him. And that is exactly what is happening. Mike LaRocco has passed Ward, has moved into the number 3 position, but he's having trouble now getting around Jeff Emig. And meanwhile, look at the lead that Mike Kidrowski has opened up. Now, to the outside goes LaRocco. Does he have enough steam, enough juice? Yes, that outside line put him on the inside for that left-hand corner, and he takes over the number 2 position, and Kidrowski is down on the track, and there goes LaRocco by. Mike Kidrowski, all alone, went down on the track. He was all right. He was quickly up, ran back to his motorcycle. It had stalled. He kick-started it within a couple of kicks, but that is a disaster for that young man. He was trying to put distance between himself and LaRocco, who he knew would be charging, would be coming, would be fleeing from the rest of the pack and trying to catch him. He was trying to open that gap, and it worked to his disadvantage. And LaRocco almost goes down. LaRocco got sideways off that jump, and he almost went down. So Mike LaRocco, who was a distant 2nd place, he would have had a long way to go to catch Mike Kidrowski, finds himself all of a sudden in that number 1 position. So behind LaRocco now, it's number 18, the early race leader, Jeff Emig, and holding down the number 3 spot would be rider number 10, Larry Ward. With number 19, another Suzuki rider, Talon Boland, moving into 4th. Mike Kiedrowski, meanwhile, managed to hold down the number 5 position. He's back a ways off the pace, but I would suspect that Kiedrowski will do just a little bit of damage to the rest of this field before this one is over. Meanwhile, moving up through the pack is Guy Cooper. He's just off the rear wheel of Mike Kiedrowski, holding down the number 6 position. Mike LaRocco, though, the man of the hour, he won Moto number 1 in this 125 class, and he's looking for a repeat to double up here in Moto number 2 in the 250cc National Championships that were held earlier this year. LaRocco scored an overall 5th place finish after the 7 races ended in that series. And there's a quick look at Mike Kiedrowski, who has worked all the way up to the number 2 position. Kiedrowski has really been on the gas. He's moved up to the number 2 spot. Jeff Emig giving chase, holding down the number 3 position now. And in 4th place, it's rider number 1, our defending 125 national champ out of Stillwater, Guy Cooper. So Cooper and Kiedrowski have cut a mean swath through the pack the last couple of laps. I don't think, though, they're going to catch this young man from LaPorte, Indiana, Team Suzuki's Mike LaRocco. He won the first moto, and he's going to win the second one with ease. You'll see the points, or the distance, I should say, between them. It's a huge one. LaRocco now is way off the track, going over to shake hands with some of the spectators. We'll go back and find the riders that finished behind him. There it is. It was Mike Kiedrowski finishing second. Here's the battle for third. Look at this. Emig just squeaks in ahead of Guy Cooper, and right behind Cooper came rider number 19, Talon Volan, who will take the number 5 position in Moto number 2. Of course, the overall win of the day is going to go to Mike LaRocco. Guy Cooper, a disappointing finish, I'm sure, on the day. Still finds time to shake hands with some of the fans. Still to come, 500cc action as we have the second moto coming your way when we come back from commercial. Be sure to stay with us. It's going to be a good one. Welcome back to National Championship Motocross. It's the final moto of the day here at Broome-Tioga Sports Center. National Championship Motocross, if you will, sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association. Rider number 11, Damon Bradshaw, was the winner of the first moto. Number 1 just coming into view on your screen. Jeff Ward finished second. In 3rd place, it was rider number 8, Jean-Michel Bale. Number 2, Jeff Stanton, was 4th, and rounding out the top 5 in that first moto, rider number 100, Ron Lachine. The gate is just about set to go in this second moto. A beautiful day here at Broome-Tioga for motocross. The fans have lined the fences, the hills, some of them even up in trees to catch all of the exciting motocross action. Jeff Ward out of the low side of the screen. Earlier today at moto number 1, we thought Ward was going to be hemmed in from that position, but look, he did it again. He managed to come out with a hole shot for the second moto in a row. And for the second moto in a row, it looked like he was going to be mired deep in the pack. A rider down, that's Damon Bradshaw. Damon Bradshaw, the first moto winner down in the racetrack. He was run over by Keith Bowen. Bradshaw picked his motorcycle up and got back into the fray, but Bradshaw is dead last in this one. The first moto winner suffered some kind of break in the early going of moto number 2. Bradshaw looked poised to maybe take his first ever 500cc National Championship overall win, but it's not going to happen today. There is no way he can cut through that pack and catch the leaders in this one. Jeff Ward, meanwhile, out front, followed by Jeff Stanton in the number 3 position. We're looking at Jean-Michel Bale. And in 4th place, that's Ron Lachine. And right behind Lachine is Gene Newmack, rider number 24. And as the riders come back into our sight, Jeff Ward is missing. Jeff Stanton, rider number 2, has taken over the number 1 position. Ward is gone. Now behind Stanton, there's Jean-Michel Bale. 3rd place is Lachine, then Gene Newmack, rider number 14. That's Mike Fisher. And there's Ward all the way back to the number 6 position. So Ward, out of sight of our camera, making some kind of an error, some kind of a miscue. Perhaps he was helped by the rider behind him. We'll have to wait to get Ward's response to that. But in any event, he made some kind of a miscue that took him out of the lead back to the number 6 position. Handing the lead now to Jeff Stanton, rider number 2, who is chasing in the championship point standings. The rider that is right behind him, Jean-Michel Bale. Bale, holding down the number 2 position, is the series leader in this 500 class after 2 rounds. The question now is, would Jean-Michel Bale risk that points lead by trying to catch and pass Jeff Stanton, or would he be content to hold on to that number 2 position and maybe solidify his place in the championship standings by garnering whatever points are given to him here in this second moto in the 500cc class? Jeff Stanton trying to take as much advantage as he possibly can of the break that was handed to him. He's trying to pull away from the rest of the field, but Bale is simply going nowhere, nor are the other riders behind him. Meanwhile, Damon Bradshaw, number 11, continues to cut, chop, and hack his way through this pack. Bradshaw has already passed over half the riders in the field. An unbelievable effort on the part of the Charlotte, North Carolina youngster. It's still Stanton out front, followed by Bale. There's Ron Lechien. Good to see Ron Lechien back up at least in a top position. He's been struggling to get there all year long, and each week it seems like he's getting just a little bit faster, a little bit better as time goes on. Lechien making a comeback on aboard a tough racing Kawasaki after being absent from national championship competition for several months. Jeff Stanton out front. Jean-Michel Bale giving chase. They're 1-2 in the points battle, although their positions are reversed in that championship points battle. Honda teammates. Jean-Michel Bale has already captured the 250cc title and the Supercross title. He's looking to become the first ever rider as he draws a bead on Stanton, narrows the distance between them, looking to become the first rider in history to win all 3 crowns in a single season. Bale squirts to the inside of Stanton. Is he going to have the room? Will Stanton give it to him? Stanton has no choice. Jean-Michel Bale has wrested the number 1 position away from Stanton. Jeff Stanton, Team Honda, 2 times a 250 champ, 2 times a Supercross champ, has been passed again by Jean-Michel Bale. Now, Bale has done that to Stanton a couple of times this season. You have to wonder if possibly it's having some kind of a demoralizing effect on Jeff Stanton. I'd have to say that it is, but I do not think that it's going to affect the way Jeff Stanton rides. I don't think that just because he sees Jean-Michel Bale coming up behind him or he knows Jean-Michel Bale is in front of him, I don't think that Jeff Stanton will automatically say, well, that's where he's supposed to be. I'll get out of the way or I won't try to pass. Look at there. Stanton is putting the pressure right back on Bale. He's there. He's ready to pounce. Stanton is one of the toughest guys that you're going to find on the racetrack, both mentally and physically. Stanton just flat gets the job done. He's one of the finest in the world. Unfortunately, the rider he's chasing right now is possibly the finest motocross racer in the world today. That's Jean-Michel Bale. Give a call to Ron Lechien hanging in there. This is by far the best outing that he has had of the season. Lechien, rider number 100, holding down that number 3 spot. And here comes Stanton around the outside. He's trying to find a line, trying to find some kind of a line that would draw him closer, close enough to get a wheel on the inside to do a little badgering on Jean-Michel Bale. And there was Ron Lechien. You saw him coming up over the tops of those jumps. This is easily the best outing that Lechien has had this season. Jean-Michel Bale, currently residing in Redondo Beach, California. First came into prominence in 1988 when he won the 125cc World Championship. In 1989, Bale came to the U.S. and rode Supercross events in the early part of the season. He rode the first National of the Year in Gainesville, Florida, and won that one. He then jumped on an airplane, went back to Europe, where he won the 250cc World title. Bale came back in 1990 to ride in the U.S. full-time, and we'll get back to Bale in a second. Here's Damon Bradshaw. Would you believe the Charlotte, North Carolina youngster, the 18-year-old for Team Yamaha, the winner of the first moto? He crashed in the first corner, was dead last, has already worked all the way up inside the top 10. Bradshaw has been letting it all hang out. Back to the head of the pack, and it's Jean-Michel Bale. 1990, he became a full-time rider in the U.S. He led and almost captured the 125 series. An injury put him out of that one. Finished second in the Supercross standings that year. 1991, he won the championship in Supercross, won it in the 250 class, and now looking to win the 500cc title to go with it, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Larry Myers. This is National Championship Motocross from Broome-Tioga Sports Center, Binghampton, New York, and that is Jean-Michel Bale. He took the lead away from Jeff Stanton a few laps ago, and he's not been headed. Stanton has made a couple of overtures toward passing. He's gotten a wheel on the inside, but each time Bale reaches down, grabs a bigger handful of throttle, and pulls away from Stanton. And right now, it would appear that Stanton has settled back into that number 2 position to watch the lines of Bale. Maybe study to see if there is a place on the racetrack that he feels he might be just a little bit faster than Bale, someplace where he can pick up some time. If such a place exists on this Broome-Tioga track, I must be honest with you, I have not seen it. Jean-Michel Bale has been absolutely flawless. Every jump, every whoop, every rut, every straightaway, every corner. Bale seems to be handling every obstacle a little bit faster than everyone else on the racetrack. There's one particular section, a series of jumps where Bale just has mastered them. No one else is doing what he's doing. Let's go back and take a look at them. Watch Bale as he comes across this big tabletop. Wham! He nails that one. Now everyone is coming up a little bit shorter than him there, but Bale takes off and jumps another 4 jumps. It's a quadruple jump. Look at this. There he goes. No one is getting the distance that Jean-Michel Bale is getting on this Broome-Tioga track off that jump. Last lap, the riders in front of Bale are about to be lapped. You'll notice them slowing down. They're going to let Bale go by. That way they don't have to ride one more lap. And Jean-Michel Bale takes the checkered flag. Doug Dubach didn't let Bale go by him. He's going to have to make one more circuit of this racetrack. So Jean-Michel Bale wins the second moto here at Broome-Tioga, and he'll take the overall win for the day. Jeff Stanton finishes second. Third place will go out to Jeff Ward. Lachine was fourth. And Damon Bradshaw, if he just keeps it upright here for a few more corners, is going to garner the number 5 position. An outstanding ride from dead last all the way up to 5th.
Here's a rundown on the way they finished in the 125 class today. Taking a pair of motos was Mike LaRocco to win the overall honors. Mike Kudrowski was second. Jeff Emig finished third. Guy Cooper fourth. Larry Ward rounding out the top 5. In 500cc competition, it was all Jean-Michel Bale. He finished third in the first moto, first in the second moto to take overall honors for the day, followed by Ward, Bradshaw, Stanton, and Lachine. And with that, another day of AMA National Championship Motocross brought to you by Suzuki comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed bringing it to you, and that you'll tune in again right here on Prime Network as the Championship Series continues. Until next time, I'm Larry Myers.